Hi, Stephanie. I don't know if you can hear me yet. Let me make sure my speak. Can you hear me? If you don't mind, if you could put in the chat box. Good, some people are popping on. Unmute, oh wait. Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me okay? If you can hear me okay, can you type in the chat box? Yes, thank you. Perfect, great. Thanks everyone for showing up on time. I'm so excited to be here today. I'm going to share my screen for a moment while everyone remembers that we have a webinar. I think this time is going to be different because a lot of people are, at home and quarantine, so there's less things going on, so you get to spend some time pre-planning. So this is me. I'm Jackie, Jacqueline Corley, but everyone calls me Jackie. And I wanted to really welcome you today. But we're going to get started in a minute. I wanted just to put a face to the voice. I'm not even looking at the camera. There you guys are. But for most of the presentation, I'm going to be off camera and be able to share with you what we have going on today. So I'm going to wait one more minute to have some more people pop on. And you can use the chat box as we go along to ask questions, to make comments or points, and at the very end of the webinar, we'll have a live Q&A. So we can answer any of your questions. I won't be able to really look at the chat box so much when I'm presenting, but I will make sure to answer your questions in some way, shape, or form by the end. Sound good? Okay. Excellent. So let me share my screen. Great. And we'll get started here in a minute. Now that's my screen. And here we go. I'm going to stop my video. Give me 1 second, guys. All right. So the second thing I'll check is, can everyone see on the screen that it says how to avoid the top college application essay mistakes? So if you can, just type in, I can see it. Perfect. Great, thank you. Okay, so let's get started. I'm really, really thrilled to be here with you tonight to be able to present this. I know that there's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. There's, especially when it comes to admissions, and you have this expectation in your head of what it's going to be like, right? You have this expectation that it's going to be this one way, you're going to be able to visit all these schools and take all these exams, and now there's, something happens and you can't do that. So my intention here today is to give you some more certainty, clarity, and direction about a really important part of your application. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to look at how to avoid the top 3 college application essay mistakes without feeling stressed out, overwhelmed, or frustrated. And this webinar is designed for you, whether you're the parent of a college applicant or if you are applying to college either next year or this year or in the upcoming years. So in the next hour, we're gonna look at the mistakes that get in the way of applicant success while writing college essays. And then we're going to uncover exactly what you can do instead. So I'm going to show you how your teen can make the shift from feeling confused or overwhelmed by college essays to feeling empowered and confident about crafting essays that really make their application stand out. So my recommendation for you is to turn off any distractions. So if you are someone who, like me, sometimes wants to scroll on their phone while they're doing something else and multitask, I recommend that you commit the 60 minutes that we're going to spend here tonight to really get something out of it. You can also take some notes. I'll be moving through the slides rather quickly, but if you wanted to take some notes, absolutely recommend that, and stay present throughout the presentation. And I have a really super special bonus at the very end of the webinar. So you're absolutely going to want to stay to the end. It was something I created after reading many of your intake forms for the College Success Strategies group on Facebook. And I realized that there was a huge need for what I created for you guys. So please stay to the end because you don't want to miss it. So people typically show up for one of two reasons. So either they're in a pretty good space, they're feeling good about this portion of the application process, they're being proactive, and they want maybe some insights, added support to make sure their teen's essays are the absolute best they can be. Or there's the other hand where they're a little bit unsure, you're unclear, you're nervous, perhaps you're a bit overwhelmed with all that's going on, and you know something needs to change in order for your teen to get the best results. So which one of these sounds more like you? You can post it's one or two in the chat box, just so I can get an idea. Look at the chat box. One. Yeah, two. Okay. Excellent. So two, right? Okay. So a lot of people are in number two, a few are in number one, looking for extra support. So I'm going to address all of that today so that no matter where you are, you feel confident. Great. So you're in the right place if any of the following are true. So you don't know enough about college essays to really feel 100% confident you're heading in the right direction. Your family dreams of receiving acceptance letters from top universities, either highly selective schools, elite schools, your Ivy League, but you really do know how competitive it is. And maybe you're worried about how exactly you're going to fit in everything there is to do and stay on top of all of it, especially when school starts up again. And when we start in the fall, all those college fairs and everything. This is also the right place for you if you're not really sure how you're going to pay for all of it. I know that college admissions is like, it can be a lot, right? So we'll address that on the webinar today too. So you want every part of the application to be outstanding and truly represent your teen, and to do so with integrity. I'll address the elephant in the room. I know last year it was pretty popular to know that there was a lot of lack of integrity in the admissions process with all of those scandals. So I just want you to know that this is not that. I make sure that all of my clients do all of the things that they do with integrity and with good character. And this is also for you if your family is being proactive by planning ahead with essays. And ideally, your teen will win scholarships. So I will address that later on in the webinar, how you can do that. So I want to briefly introduce myself so that you guys get a feel for who I am and what my mission is and why I do what I do, and also give you some certainty of why you should take some of my guidance. So I'm the founder of the College Essay Captain. I taught 11th and 12th grade English, and when I started, it was an interesting start to my first year teaching because I was young, and someone told me that you needed to have your students respect you on day one. You needed to show them who's boss, or else they wouldn't listen to you for the rest of the year. And I took that seriously, but being that I was so young, my students in 12th grade were like, why is she trying to tell us what to do, right? And that year got off to a rough start for me. But interestingly enough, it's almost similar in a way to what's been going on in the environment now, because that year I was in New York, I had lived in New York, we got hit with Hurricane Sandy. And a lot of my students, school was canceled. Many students were displaced. Some of my students lost their homes, and it was hard to get back into the groove of things. And college applications got pushed back for these students because of the natural disaster. And what I ended up doing was working with a lot of them one-on-one in my classroom, outside of my classroom, on lunch, after school, on their application essays. And it totally shifted my perspective on this. And I think it's so important for them at this point in time to be able to share themselves authentically, to reflect on who they are and who they want to be. It shifted the dynamic of my classroom, and I became known as the college essay person. Everyone would come to me for their application essays, so much so that my school actually created a position for me to do that. Now, this gave me a unique opportunity to work with literally hundreds of students who are applying to college from all, backgrounds of grades and all of that. And so from there, I started researching and fine-tuning how I could help my students. And I created a signature methodology, part of which I'll share with you today, to coach them to feel a lot less stressed, because it does become stressful during when you're applying for college, and more empowered during the process. In addition to that, I'm an NLP practitioner and hypnotherapist, which helps me to add to the mindset portion of this. And I help career applicants land highly selective jobs. So I share that because this is a skill that can translate and transfer over to other areas of life. So learning how to tell a story can be the difference between what makes NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. It's a really fancy word for teaching, for helping people to break through limiting beliefs. It's very similar in ways to hypnotherapy for hypnosis, to help people release unconscious behaviors and beliefs to empower them to move forward. So there's so much that I love to do with application essays and helping people land jobs, and because I think these are kind of the gateways to get you where you want to go. And the cool thing was, after I started doing this, I ended up getting featured on some pretty well-known college websites, like Grown and Flown. Been featured on, wrote the white paper for Go to College fairs for college essays. They sign up about 700,000 students a year for college fairs, so you might be familiar with them in the upcoming months. Been featured on Leonard Andrew Consulting and College Scoops, and I delivered a talk for an international community called I Inspire about how language can shape our destiny. And now I help competitive college applicants write application essays that stand out and that enhance their applications, because that's what it's all about, without feeling lost, without feeling disempowered or overwhelmed. And I invite you to take a moment to really imagine what it would be like for your family to be completely confident, to know exactly what steps to take about college application essays, and to get in touch with what that would actually provide for your family, because that will help you throughout the webinar to know why you're here and to stay focused and be on purpose. What would it provide for you? Would it make you feel substantially less stressed out, more supported, feel like you did everything you could do for your team to support them in this way? What would it feel like to be completely confident? So here's what I've found. From working with all of these applicants for years, it's been like this. So most applicants really want to write essays that make their application stand out. But when they start to try to figure it out on their own, they get stuck or overwhelmed, and it becomes a great source of stress for them. And then some of them think that if they only spent more time writing or worked harder, then they'd get it. But they don't know if they're going 100 miles in the wrong direction, and usually their parents don't either. They read essays that worked for admissions teams and then almost immediately make the mistake of thinking they can't write like that. And then in reality, that's not true. They actually only need two things. One is to develop a different mindset, and two is to learn a few key strategies and formulas that are at the core of all successful essays. So they only need two things. to develop a different mindset, and to learn a few key strategies and formulas that are at the core of all successful essays. So in other words, it comes down to two things. It comes down to mindset or strategy. Anytime a teen is struggling writing these essays, it is either because they're in a negative state or mindset. So they're feeling like, I can't come up with a topic, I'm scared, I'm not good enough, there's too much work to do, I can't focus, or they're using a strategy that doesn't work. They're using a strategy like trying to write them the same way that they would write in high school classes. And this is different, which I'll explain later. And so here's why this becomes a problem. They have, when they're fearful of not being good enough, they limited their ability to write memorable pieces. So this is what happens when I was working with my students and then later my clients. I was listening for what was really going on with them, that I had these students who were in all these AP classes who are applying to the top schools in the country, and yet they're crying at my desk over writing these essays. And I realized that when they couldn't believe, when they didn't believe that they could write this way, they thought, I'm too much of a math science person, I'm not creative. They couldn't write them. And it wasn't because they couldn't, it was because they believed they couldn't. It became a self-fulfilling prophecy. And when they were writing these essays based on how they learned to write them in school, they were frustrated that the essays that they were writing didn't look like the ones that they read. So what I did was I started helping them shift their beliefs and to help them see these essays differently, which is what we're going to look at next. And I created simple formulas and methods for my students to model the patterns in the essays that really stood out to admissions teams. And I helped them to avoid the common mistakes, which is what we're going to dissect in a second. And my students and then later my clients began writing masterful essays, and they felt confident and inspired. And that's a different energy to send off your application in, when you are confident that it's the best it could be, rather than sitting in that place of fear and uncertainty and then having to wait for a response. I like when applicants are able to send off their documents and say, that is my best work. So the results were that many of the students I was working with were consistently getting accepted to some of the most competitive universities in the country. Cornell, Columbia, the Cooper Union, University of Michigan, Boston University, and some of these schools have really low acceptance rates. And I want to help your family achieve the same results. First, I want to mention that it's completely okay if you don't know much about application essays, or you see it as another hoop to jump through or another task. That's completely okay. I like to look at essays as a really incredible opportunity for teens to reflect on who they are and who they want to be, and learn to share that with another human being in a way that's meaningful. So for many of you, this is all new, and applying to college has changed a lot in the past 2 decades. It's completely different now that it's been online and there's a common application. It's been driving schools to be more selective because there's so many more applicants. And so what I want to help you do is figure out this portion. And so you're here today to learn, and everything is figure outable. And let's move into discussing the common mistakes that I see a lot of families make so that you don't have to make them this year. And so once you do that, once we go over the mistakes, you're going to have clarity on what makes essays stand out and what admissions teams are really looking for. And your teen this will prevent so many hours of wasted time writing essays that really just don't work. Because sometimes when students come to me, they get frustrated because they've spent so much time working on the essays and they really just don't work. And they have to start from scratch, and it can be really frustrating. Your family is going to be able to maintain a positive outlook, where we'll talk about mindset throughout the process, and have an effective game plan. And teens will be able to use the same strategies to win essay scholarships, which I will discuss again at the end. So the first mistake, let's dive into these, is that families get filled with misconceptions because they're hearing all these different contradictory things, or they're operating from what they think they know rather than what is actually true with admissions. So let's clear some of those up so that you can avoid those. So the first misconception is that college essays aren't really that big of a deal, or my teen's getting a lot of help in school, or they can just write them on their own. And the statistics should surprise you, because they surprised me when I was doing all my research for gotocollegefairs.com. I was like, this can't be right, but it is. The national student to counselor ratio is 455 to 1. They have 455 students per counselor. And in some states, in California and in Arizona, that number's double. So what that means is that for most public schools, and this is different for private, right? So you'll have a lower rate for that. But for most counselors, they don't get to see your teen that much. And then when they do, they only spend 22% of their time on college guidance. So there's not too much support in school for many of you. And so that drives you to places like this, like for webinars, and to get some extra information, some support on, what's important in the application process and how can I help my teen make the good decisions, right? And it's between 60 and 70% of universities state that application essays are important to their decision. And this is more for the top schools, for the elite schools, they're gonna weigh more heavily because they have so many applicants and so few seats. And highly selective schools, excuse me, reject as many as 70 to 95% of applicants. So they get 10 applications and 9 of them are getting rejected. It's just numbers. So the reality of the situation is, if those are the numbers, you need to make sure every part of your application is the best it can be if you're really wanting to go to these schools. The other surprising statistic, maybe not, is that 50% of high school students reported experiencing high levels, not just stress, high levels of daily stress. And getting into a good college was the third leading cause of stress for teens. So these statistics paint a picture for me, I don't know if it's for you too, but that there's an opportunity for this to just, fall on the back burner when they get back into school if they don't have the support. And it can become very stressful. So my mission here is to help you feel a whole lot less stressed by giving you the support that you need and for serving you. The second misconception is that the purpose of these essays are to impress admissions teams. That's really not what they're asking for. And so what happens is that teens worry they aren't good enough, and they write essays that they think admissions will like instead of ones that are actually authentic. And these essays all sound the same. I promise you, I read them, they all sound the same. Or teens get stuck in this place of like, I have to have this massive life event that they didn't have because they're 16 or 17 years old. And then they're looking for it and they're like, I don't have the massive event in my life. Really, what they want to do is just have you share a story that allows them to get to know who you are as a person, who your teen is as a person, what their character's like, so that they can start to see who they are compared to the other applicants. It is the only part of the application process where they're asking you to reflect on yourself, not your grades, not your scores, not how well you did in school, but who you are and how you want to present yourself to admissions teams. So if you're going to do a bumper sticker here or take notes, they want teens to authentically express themselves instead of trying to impress them. So express instead of trying to impress. The third misconception, and there's gonna be one more after this, is that you should write about sports, community service, that AP class, how hard you work, because this is similar to the last one. Those are the ones that admissions officers want to hear. There are sometimes 80,000 students applying to one school. Everyone has very similar days in high school. So they're going to classes, they're going to clubs and all of that. So when they're writing about these topics, they end up writing generic, boring essays. So you have to think bigger picture. You have to see from a admissions officer's perspective that they're really looking at dozens, if not hundreds, if not thousands of essays that can all end up sounding very similar, right? So you want to you want to be really aware of your audience and take a bit of creativity. It may take some time, but come up with a different topic or a spin on a common one. So if you're going to talk about a community service that you did, it's not that it's wrong. It just makes sure that you're aware that so many other people could be writing about a very similar topic. So you're going to have to make it interesting. Have them thank you. So you don't have control over whether or not they're reading this on late at night before they want to go to bed. They had a long day. Over the weekend, you don't know when they're going to read it. They're fresh first thing in the morning. So if they're tired and their eyes are, closing and they're reading your essay, you want them to like open their eyes and go, wow, I really like this person for writing this essay. Thank you. Thank you. I have had to read thousands of these. Please, thank you, right? That's what you want. So the fourth misconception is that teens think they're not creative because they're into STEM, they're science or technology or engineering or math, and they say, I'm a math science person, I'm not creative. So it becomes a problem because students don't realize that they can actually learn how to write this, and they spend a lot of time feeling discouraged because they think, well, I either have creativity or I don't. I either can write this way or I don't. And what I'd like to say is that it is a very teachable skill. I help a lot of students who consider themselves math science because I give them the right approach. I teach them in a very formulaic way where we reverse engineer things so that it makes sense in their language that they're used to. So students can actually learn how to write this way pretty much overnight. I will share a story about that too. So I want to share a little story about one of my clients who came to me, I think it was two or 3 years ago. And his dad reached out to me because the essays weren't working. And when I read his essays, it was because he had added in every SAT word he had just recently studied at the advice of his father. He was frustrated because he didn't get to pick his topic. His dad picked his topic for him. He's like, you have to write this because you have to be impressive to admissions officers. And the reality of it was, it just wasn't working for him because when you're stuck in this place of, I have to be impressive, I can't be real, being real isn't safe, it blocks your creativity. And so when I worked with him, he shifted a lot of these beliefs, and he was able to tell a personal story in his own voice that felt really good. And he was so proud of what he submitted. And it made it so much easier for him to write once he realized it wasn't something that he had to be so impressive to admissions officers, and he could relax a little bit. So that's a really good shift if that's in something that you've been dealing with at home. So the second mistake is that they don't have the right mindset or writing strategies. What I said earlier is that there's two things that are affecting students: mindset and strategy. So mindset and writing strategies are two of the things that are causing the most stress for applicants. So why mindset? I could tell from sitting and talking with somebody for a few minutes about their application essay whether it was going to be a good essay or it was going to flop. Because if they were talking about how hard it was or they can't do it, if they had a bad mindset about it where it was impossible for them, I knew that they were going to have a hard time. So I also knew if I shifted their mindset, I could drastically shift their results, sometimes overnight. And so here's why mindset is so important and why sometimes it's challenging during this process is because I mentioned this earlier, but writing essays comes on top of all of your other schoolwork and extracurricular activities. So I know that the activities aren't really happening now, but I'm hearing from a lot of parents that schoolwork has actually increased and there's a lot of work to do. So these essays come on top of all of that and can be a source of stress because you're like, where do I have the time to actually be dedicated to if I have 12 essays to write? And in some cases for competitive universities, you might have that many essays. They've never learned how to write this way before. For this style, for this audience, when have you applied to college before? Probably never, right? So they don't realize, for many applicants, that it's a different style of writing than the one they're used to in school. And so there's some resistance there because they're used to writing a certain way for their teachers, and then they start to write application essays and they're not really sure what makes one stand out. And we talked about generic ideas come from very similar life circumstances. It creates a flight fight or freeze response for many applicants because they feel that these really impact the rest of their lives. These essays, like how they perform now, impacts their life. So when you feel something is so big and heavy on you, it can block your creativity because it causes stress and it leaves them feeling that they're not good enough. And it's just so not true. They simply need a different mindset and approach. And also sometimes they don't know if they're going 100 miles in the wrong direction. So what I've noticed is that teens, and we all do this, so this isn't just for applicants, this is a mindset shift for all of us. So I wanted to share that, pay attention. We are usually in either one or two cycles. We are either in a success cycle with our beliefs or a failure cycle with our beliefs. And I'll share a story about the belief about the 4-minute mile. So about 50, 60, 70 years ago, the consensus was that no one could run under a 4-minute mile. It was impossible. Doctors said absolutely not. No one could do it. It's beyond human capacity. And so what happens is people have thoughts and feelings in regard to what they believe. So people went along their lives thinking it's not possible. I'll never be able to do it. No way. And then what actions do they take when they have these thoughts and feelings? Well, the actions that they take are consistent with the thoughts and feelings and beliefs. That makes sense? So what happens is they don't really try. They're like, oh, it's impossible. There's a block there. And the result is that they don't run under a 4-minute mile. It just wasn't happening for so many people that it just reinforced the belief. Like, well, look, no one's running under a 4-minute mile. It must not be possible. Then this guy, Roger Bannister, comes in and goes, I don't believe that's true. I am going to run under a 4-minute mile. And so he didn't let anyone talk him out of it. He had different thoughts and different feelings. He's in the success cycle because he's going, I can do this. I have to train. I am completely capable of doing this. He felt good about it. It was possible. He was limitless. And so he took actions. He trained so much to be able to do this. And he did it. What happened after he did it is even more fascinating. He broke everyone else's belief because that year, I would think it was 7 or 8 more people were able to run under a 4-minute mile. Isn't that fascinating? Why? Because the belief's no longer there. The belief now changes. Well, actually it is possible. So now everyone else has different thoughts and feelings. So when we apply this to our lives, we can see that when we have a belief that isn't serving us, it's creating thoughts and feelings that aren't serving us, which influences the actions that aren't serving us. And then we get a result that reinforces the belief. This is everything we do. So what happens with applicants? And why is it so important for them to shift their beliefs? Because they say things like, I'm a math science person. This is too hard. Other people can write great essays, but I can't. I don't have enough time. I don't have the talent to do this. Whatever it is, they have a belief. And then they feel frustrated, right? Because they're talking to themselves in their head as though this isn't possible for them. And they get overwhelmed. They're worried about their admission process. They say things like, this is too hard. I can't do this. I can't write like that. What actions do they take? Well, they're going to be consistent with their belief. They either don't write them, they give up easily, they experience writer's block because they're cutting off the channels to their creativity. They make little progress, they act out in frustration, or like they'll say things like, they'll write subpar essays, right? They don't take the actions to learn it because they don't think they can, right? And what happens is they have essays that aren't original. When they talk like this, I know what type of essays they're gonna get. And it's not because I don't believe that they can write outstanding essays. They can, but once they get rid of that belief. So they write essays that aren't original, they're inauthentic, they're generic, they're rushed, they're incomplete or last minute, or they feel really challenging for them to write. When we can shift them to a success cycle, so this sometimes parents need to be aware of their language when they talk about it. Don't feed into the story. Don't feed into the I can't story. No way, right? They can learn how to do it. Talk to them like writing is a process. That's how I teach it. It's a process. Yes, you're gonna have to brainstorm. Yes, you're gonna have to revise and edit. So believe that writing is a process. I'm getting better and better at this. There are formulas I can learn. My whole life is stories. There are other things that I once didn't know how to do that I now know how to do, right? We all learned how to walk and it was from falling down. We all learned how to ride a bike, but most of us And it was from falling down and getting back up and trying again. So when you shift that, you create new possibilities. You have new feelings in your body. You feel limitless and confident. Say things like, yes, I can, this is fun, this is easy, I can do this, right? Then the actions, they're consistent with their belief, right? They get excited, they find the perfect topic. All of a sudden it just pops into their head, right? When they're not believing, they can't do it, this is too hard, they don't have enough time, they actually have access to the perfect topic. It's amazing. They feel inspired to write, revise, edit, and they take risks, which can help with the admissions process when they feel like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna write something different, right? And they have fun doing it. I had actually a client last year, he went through my course and he's like, I wish I started this earlier because this is a lot more fun than he had been trying to write his essays. He was struggling with them. And once he had shifted his beliefs and his strategy, he was having a lot more fun writing his essays. And so they end up writing these original, authentic, creative, and engaging essays that truly stand out. So here's a few ways to do that if you're in that boat, is instead of saying things like, well, why is this so hard? From my training, from my understanding of how the mind works, and this will tie back to NLP and hypnosis, is that your mind is actually designed to answer the questions that you ask it. It's going to give you an answer, but a lot of times we ask questions that create the space for a really disempowering answer. You ever ask yourself, like, why did that person look at me this way? And then you'll come up with some scenario of how you did something at 7 years old that you can't let go of, and people don't like you. Like, it just answers the question that you ask. So be mindful to ask questions like, how can I make this easier? How can I look at this differently? How many ways do I know this is working? Right? How many ways have I learned to do other things that I once thought were challenging or couldn't do? Yes. Okay. So can I reasonably do this too? Yes. Anytime you feel this is a cool trick. Anytime you feel a negative emotion, it's just like your higher self, your inner being just not agreeing with you. So if you feel a negative emotion, it means it's not true. It just, how you're talking to yourself is not true. So another way you can ask this is, how can I make this even better? So if you're editing, instead of looking at it like, oh, what's wrong with it? I have to edit it. I have to look for all the things wrong. Ask, how can I make this essay even better? It changes, I promise you, it will change how your brain answers it. It will change your experience. It will change your beliefs, your actions, your thoughts, your feelings, and your results. So the other part that I want to share for the strategy. Now, what so many people do is they start to tell instead of show. And let me describe the differences here. So the writing strategy that I'm sharing with you tonight is show, don't tell. So some of you have heard of it, some of you haven't, some of you have practiced it this way, some of you know. Wherever you are, just kind of open your mind up so that you can hear new information, right? Instead of having the preconceived notions. So college essays and scholarship essays, for many of them, are personal stories. They're not descriptions. So they're very different from how you'd write in school or your team would write in school. And so applicants should avoid telling the reader what happened by summarizing events or by giving way too many details. For whatever reason, this happens with a lot of students, is that they want to tell their entire life story in 650 words. You don't. You have to pick a very small moment in time, and the way you use that, you describe it, and you allow the reader to experience life through your eyes for those few moments. That is what connects them to you. Because when you share something about, when you create a mental picture for another person, and you share what was going on physically in your body, you are able to help them create the same connections when they're reading your story that you felt. So that you ever read a book where you actually felt the experience of the character? That's the same idea, where you couldn't put it down because you're so invested in what was happening, even though the character wasn't real. Yeah, because they're showing what happened, so you feel like you're actually in the story rather than just reading it. If you can do that if your team can do that with their application essay, the admissions officer will thank them. They'll say, finally, I've been waiting for this. I've read 17 essays so far today, and thank you. And so you want to create a narrative and show them what happened through action, through dialogue, through imagery, and other storytelling techniques. That is what's going to create that connection. And in addition, when you tell it like a story, it makes it memorable. So they can, people remember stories, but if you were to say, like, tell me these facts and figures, like at the end of the day, you might not have the same recall. But if you felt emotions and you read a story, you can recap the story. So it makes it memorable, which also helps you stand out. So here's the difference. So here's an example of telling. I embarrassed my sister at lunch, and I felt bad about it. I had told her I would try to be nicer to her. So it's not that anything's wrong with it, right? It's telling us what happened. But does it create any emotional connection to you? Do you really see it in your head? Do you even know what her sister, anything about her sister? You don't have any emotion to it. So on the other hand, showing, Sarah clutched her lunchbox into her chest. You promised you wouldn't embarrass me. Her lips quivered, and I could see tears forming in her eyes. I looked down at my feet. Do you see the difference? Do you feel the difference? There's a different energy to that than the first one. And it's because they're creating a mental picture. Same ideas are getting across in each, right? But you can picture Sarah. You have an image of her probably being a little bit younger because she's a lunchbox and she's clutching it. And she's sad, right? Because you can see her lips quivering and her tears forming in her eyes. But she doesn't tell you she's sad, right? And the main character, the person who's narrating, saying, I look down at my feet, indicates to you as the reader, it lets you play along, right? It lets you figure things out. And when you allow the reader to figure things out instead of telling them what to think, it helps them to create those emotional, the neural pathways that are connected to you. So they feel when they read your essay, when they read your personal story or your teen's personal story, that they're connected to them as a person. And these essays add the person, right? The other parts of the application are like graphable data. And you know your teen is not graphable, right? Their scores are, but who they are as a person certainly isn't. So that's where you have this opportunity. I want to share with you my favorite success story. So this young man, he was one of actually my former students, and the guidance department sent him to me, and they said, you know, you got to see her because your essay is not working and you're applying to some competitive schools. And so he sat across from me, and he tells me, of course, I'm a math science person. I'm not a creative writer. I can't do this. And I have this essay in front of me and it's just not working. And when I read it, he was sharing about a very personal decision to inject himself with hormones because his growth was stunted and he was getting bullied and picked on in middle school, and he had the choice. And so the way it came across initially was that I read it and I'm like, do you want to send the message to universities and admissions department that if someone bullies you, you'll change everything about yourself? And he goes, no. I said, well, that's what's going on in this essay. I said, what was really happening for you? And he's like, I want my exterior to match who I am as inside. I'm a big person. I'm filled. I'm a big person. And I want to be a force to be reckoned with in the world. I want to help people. I want to just be a presence. And he goes, and at that point in time, that's how I felt. I needed my exterior to match that. And I was like, that's a lot more of a powerful story. And we worked on it with imagery. And I said, what if it's not that you're not a creative writer? What if you just haven't learned a formula yet? You haven't learned the right approach. And you just believe that. And I showed him the formulas that I give to my clients, and he's like, I get it. I get it. And he left. We didn't even finish the conversation. He goes, I'm going to go finish this. He came back the next day with one of the most incredible essays I've ever read. And the guidance department, the college guidance department, was passing it around to all the teachers because it was that good. And this was night and day. This was literally one night difference from him shifting his belief and him having the right strategy. And he was applying to the University of Chicago. It was his dream school. And he started writing all of these essays for them, these creative pieces, because they ask you for some pretty interesting essay topics. And their department, their admissions department, called our high school to tell him that they absolutely loved his essays, and they were like, please keep writing, because we were so impressed with his series of essays. Like, they wanted to acknowledge him. He ended up not getting into University of Chicago. They called him really personally to let him know that it had nothing to do with his essays, because they loved what he had to say. And he ended up going into writing competitions and applying for scholarships and all that, because he actually enjoyed doing it once he knew that he could, right? So it is possible. It doesn't matter where you are right now. If your teen swears up and down, I've had students do that and make these breakthrough results overnight when they have the approach. So the third mistake that I see families make, and this happens every year, is they don't have a game plan. They don't set themselves up for success. They leave this up to chance, and then very last minute they realize, wow, well, I don't really know how to do this. And I want to help you prevent that. So why make a plan? Let's look at how the other parts, the admissions process, are. So when it comes to the ACT, when it comes to the SAT, AP exams, assignments, and tests that influence an applicant's GPA, students prepare. So they practice, they study for them. They learn how to take the test in many cases. So what's the strategy when it comes to SAT prep, right? So think of essays in the same way. It's something you have to learn, you haven't done before, and you need to learn the process. You need to know who your audience is and what they're looking for and how to craft it. You need the right approach. And the right approach and strategies, because again, it's your first experience with them. So I recommend as a family that you come up with a game plan. And here's some advice on to how to create a game plan. So decide now how you're going to learn them, how you're going to write them, and what type of support you'll need. That's something you decide as a family, but plan ahead. Right now is the perfect time to get started on these essays, right? This has never happened, I don't think, in the history of college admissions, where something like this, where all the students aren't able to go to school, your online classes, you're at home, you might have a lot more time to do this now. So get started, set yourself up for success in every way that you can so that you feel fully supported in this. Create a list of all the essays you'll need to write, the word count, the deadlines. Start them early, because brainstorming sometimes, again, if you get stuck in a negative mindset, you lose the creativity, right? So sometimes when you're worried about it, you cut off that creative channel. So leave time to have that happen, leave time to relax, because the closer you get to deadlines, the more the mindset starts to shift, right? So make sure you start them early and plan ample time to think and revise. Brainstorming and revision are part of the process. J.K. Rowling did not write Harry Potter in a day. She had a lot of editing to do, right? So the essays that you're looking at that worked have a lot of work that went into them. There was a lot of time to revise, a lot of editing, a lot of thought, and I'm sure that was not their first draft that they wrote. So keep that in mind when you're writing for those college applicants on the webinar. So also find someone who has experience with essays to review them. So don't ask a friend, don't ask, unless you have a parent who's gone through this process before. I sometimes recommend not to do that. Read them over for like grammar and things like that, but what happens is you'll have misconceptions of what makes an essay stand out, and then it'll flop. So ask a counselor at school, if possible, an English teacher, a consultant, etc. So the last story I want to share about a client was, he's one of my, I have so many favorites. So he reached out to me and he realized he didn't have a game plan, right? He needed help. He was really smart. He's valedictorian, and he wanted really badly to go to the University of Michigan. I was actually going to add a text in here, like a text message I just recently received from him, but I didn't add it. So by reaching out, I was able to look at his drafts, and he saved himself from writing generic essays. We helped him to get into the story within the story that he had, and he was able to overlap a lot of supplemental essays, so he wrote less. So he was able to actually put time and effort into the ones he was writing. And by the end of working together, he felt so confident applying. And it was like, it made my whole life to see him get into University of Michigan, because I've never seen a student want to go somewhere so bad. And he wrote this Why Michigan essay. So a lot of schools ask you, why do you want to go to our school? And he wrote this why us essay where he fell asleep in his car, like in his dream. His dad was driving. They're driving back from visiting the University of Michigan. He falls asleep and he dreams of all of the things that he's going to do each year, all of the little details of like the places he was going to go and the people he was going to meet and what clubs he was going to join. And he was going to be a sports broadcaster, and all the way up into his graduation. And so we added all these details of everything he paid attention to on his school visit. And he messaged me, he sent me a text message a few months ago, and he's like, I just want you to know that you helped me so much. And he goes, everything that I wrote in that essay is coming true. So I think he's a sophomore now. He's like, it's unbelievable. Like all the things I wrote, he goes, you're the only person who will get this, because all of the things that he wrote down have started to manifest in his experience. And it's so wonderful because he's so deserving. But that happened because he made a plan, right? So we want to make sure that you're set up for success here. So I want to quickly recap. We looked at the common mistakes to avoid, why mindset is so important, the most important writing strategy for college essays. There's a few more, there's a lot of formulas that I teach, but that one will help you, send you in the right direction. And you also learned why it's important to create a game plan, right? So my question to you, this is the next logical question. Would you like me to help you with all of this? So would it be helpful if your teen had support with keeping a positive mindset, the right writing strategies, and creating a game plan so that you can avoid the common mistakes, all of the stress? So let's remind you why you're here, right? So you showed up today, for many of you, is because you're stuck, you're uncertain, you're worried, you don't know enough about college essays to really have them help your teen's application, and or you decided to be proactive about it. And so if you're here on purpose. So I want to share with you that I think at this point in time, you have two options, right? So your family takes option one, you don't make a plan, you wait till last minute, and your teen tries to write them on his or her own without any direction. Or you can figure out a game plan. Your family commits to making your teen's applications the absolute best they can be, and your teen learns how to write these essays following a proven system. That would be helpful, wouldn't it? So what would it be like for your family? I want to reconnect to what we were talking about earlier. If your teen knew exactly how to write application essays, step by step, knew exactly how to make them stand out, and could write them confidently without feeling stressed out. That would probably be a pretty good year, right? So, and what would it be like if your teen could win scholarship money simply by learning this approach? So that's what I said I was going to share, so I'll do that now. When it comes to scholarships, the ones that worked, this is very important to pay attention to. I looked at a lot of scholarship essays that won full scholarships to universities, ones that won a lot of money. And what they have in common is that they wrote them as personal narratives. They didn't tell them, here I did this and this and this. They wrote really engaging pieces. So if you learn how to write this way, if your teen learns how to write this way, it can help them win scholarships. It helps them win, it can help them win full ride scholarships. It can help them win $250, $500 here and there. I used my college application essay that I used for my Common App to apply for a scholarship. Did zero extra work, didn't even edit it, sent it in, I won $1,000. So it's useful for you to learn how to write this way, because it can end up saving you a lot of money in the long run. So if that sounds good to you, if that sounds like something would be helpful, then I'd like to personally invite you to College Essay Playbook. And then right after, I'm going to share with you what I have going on with this, with College Essay Playbook, and then we'll jump into our Q&A session. So College Essay Playbook is a digital course I created for my clients, and now I'm offering it to more people. And it uses a one-of-a-kind signature methodology that we talked about, where it has the formulas and it has mindset to help applicants develop a really powerful mindset. And it's shows them exactly how to write essays that stand out. So by the end of this course, applicants will know exactly how to pick unique topics, ones that actually capture their personality and character and that enhance their applications. They'll also have a fuller understanding of their audience. So who are admissions officers, what are they looking for, and how to use this to their advantage. They'll have followed a proven step-by-step system and methodology to write essays that really stand out, and ones, importantly, feel easier to write. They'll have revised and edited their essays and feel completely confident that they are the best they absolutely can be. And they'll have the skills and mindset they need to apply for essay scholarships so you can win money. So here's what we'll cover in the course. So in module 1, we're going to set the foundations. We're going to talk about mindset, how to get your mindset working for you and not against you, how to get started, how to research scholarships and to plan ahead, and also to know really what you're in for. What's the college essay game? In module 2, I'm going to help them plan their approach. So we're going to look at the common essay types they might encounter and what they need to know for each. How to pick a topic, that actually stands out from the sea of other applicants, and then which topics it would make most sense for them to avoid and why. So they have a picture in their head of, oh yeah, that might send a red flag. In module 3, heart and soul of this course, I'm going to teach them exactly the strategies and formulas that I use with my personal coaching clients so that they know, okay, here's what this essay is doing well, and here's where I can improve. They'll know what makes an outstanding opening, body paragraph, conclusion, how to weave things together. And I created it as simple formulas so that it's easy to follow. They'll have plenty of model essays that worked. In addition to that, this module is going to discuss the winning features. So things that other applicants don't know to look for, but I do, I'm going to share, here's how to enhance it even more. Because sometimes when you just make a fine-tuned shift in your tone or word choice, it can make a world of difference for how something's perceived. So that's what we'll talk about in module 3. And then the final module, we're going to talk about revision and editing, and not just revision and editing like, okay, we'll read it over and we'll check it. I mean revising like a champion, how to make those subtle 2-millimeter shifts, how to look for things that, how to revise and organize it in a way that actually stands out. So the 4-module course value is $9.97. And on top of that, you're going to get a whole lot of bonuses that are very valuable too. So I've included bonuses on a guided mindfulness practice, acceptance affirmations, a review of tech tools that will help you not only with college application essays, but also in college. So tech tools that I found have been really effective. And then we're also going to give you 9 brainstorming games. So there's no question if you have supplemental essays, what you can come up with as a creative topic. That's a $197 value that's included in the course. And you're going to have bonus documents, college essay tracker, uncommon ideas for the Common app with over 80 essay ideas. So again, you're not going to run out of ideas with this. And there's a lot of different supportive documents to help you, cheat sheets and editing checklists and all of that so that you can feel guided. So if we add all those together, the digital course, the video bonuses, the bonus documents, that's a value of over $1,200. But I know that there's a lot of you who may have the question of like, well, I know a digital course is probably really helpful, but what if my teen has questions? What if they need some extra support? So I'm adding a live Q&A session. So it'll be similar to this. We'll get on, I'll be able to see them, I'll be able to answer any questions they have, and I'll give them a bonus strategy idea so that they can make their essays even better. So that's a $147 value I'm adding into that. And I'm going to share with you a really important bonus up next. So if we add those, we stack those together, we have the digital course, the video bonuses, the bonus documents, and the Q&A, it's over $1,400 in value. But I recognized, based on reading all of your intake forms, that there was a need for more. There was a need for support with all of the components of the application process. So what makes a letter of recommendation stand out? How do I get a great letter of recommendation? What do I need to know about my AP scores, and where should I focus my time and energy? So I'm adding this course that I just created, which is worth $497. I'm going to be selling it for $497 to this. It's called How to Earn Admission to Top Schools, the Whole Picture. So we're going to talk about everything an admissions officer looks for, what is most important to them, so that you can make educated decisions as a family where to focus your time and energy and effort. And I'm including this for those of you who are still on this webinar as a super special live bonus. Like, I'm giving this to you for free for those of you who are still here who want to be involved in College Essay Playbook. So that's going to be for free. I really wanted to serve you today and to create something that would help you in all areas and to really support you. And so here's a sneak peek inside that course. So we'll look at grades and college prep courses, overall GPA, strength of curriculum. We'll talk about how important each of these things are, and what you need to know from an admissions perspective of how they're going to be reading it. We'll talk about class rank and how to demonstrate interest, how important those things are. So this is going to be a really highly valuable course, but I wanted to get this for you because I know that so many of you had questions about these components as well. So including that, again, for free with College Essay Playbook. So let's add this together. The digital course, the video bonuses, the bonus documents, the Q&A, and how to earn admissions to top schools, the whole picture course, the video training, as a total value of $1,935. But as you could have probably guessed, I'm not charging you $1,935. The reason I'm not is because I know that so many of you want to do right by your kids. And sometimes college counseling and consulting is really pricey. I know a company that I was working with for a minute was charging $25,000 for support. And I wanted to make something that was more accessible to families and to support them during the process. So $1,935 value, I'm slashing that price. It is $497 for the digital course to teach you how to write scholarship essays, college essays, to have video bonuses on mindset, bonus documents to support you as you go, the live Q&A and bonus strategy session, and the course on how to earn admission to top schools, the whole picture. So $497 for all of that. So in addition to that, I'm offering you a 30-day money-back guarantee. Again, I know this has been like, wow, everything's uncertain in my life, and there's a lot going on in the world, but I wanted to support you. I back my products, so there's a satisfaction guarantee. If it's not working for you, you don't like it, please just let me know. So my promise is you'll love it. So for those of you who are ready to move forward with this, and Q&A in a couple of moments. So for those of you who are ready to move forward, you're ready to step into this, you're ready to come up with a game plan and make a decision, you'll go to collegeessayplaybook.com. I'll walk you through this for 2 minutes to show you exactly what to do. And remember that the live webinar bonus for the bundle to get how to earn admission to top schools is only available on the webinar. So I'm not that's actually going to be a $497 course, but I'm including it with College Essay Playbook for those of you who are committed and are decision makers. So if you go to collegeessayplaybook.com and click the orange button that says, yes, I want to now, it should bring you, if all goes as planned, right, to this beautiful page. And this is the bundle. So it's College Essay Playbook plus How to Earn Admission to Top Schools bundle. It should say College Essay Playbook and How to Earn Admissions to Top Schools. The whole picture are your how-to digital courses on the best methods to help college applicants there might be some uncertainty, right? So I wanted to create another payment. So you could pay in full for $497, or if you wanted to pay over time, there's an option there for 3 months at $185. And then you click whichever makes most sense for your family. And it should bring you to this lovely page. So this page is where you're going to create an account. If you're a parent and this is something you're registering your teen for, then I recommend you use your son or daughter's name and email to register them. You could use your own. I just want to make sure that the person who's going to be using it is the one who has access. So whatever makes most sense for you. So sign up, I would use your teen's name and email address and come up with a password. Give everyone a second to do that. And the course is hosted on Thinkific, which is really great. So you'll be able to access all of the bonus documents. You'll be able to access both courses. I don't have it on a drip schedule, so I have it so you can do this on your own time, because I wanted to give everyone the freedom of being able to work on it as a family rather than, okay, we have to do this once a week. If that makes sense. So my recommendation for College Essay Playbook is that you, if you're a teen, that you maybe do one module a week. They're not very long. So for College Essay Playbook, I didn't make the modules extremely long so that you could, oh, sorry, chat box. Awesome, thanks so much. I'm looking at the chat box. So I made the content of it really accessible and short and sweet, so that you're not watching these like hour-and-a-half long videos. They're all between like 10 and 20, 30 minutes. So it's manageable. Now let's move on to, I think I moved on to the next page, I'm not sure. Okay, so when you complete your purchase, you can purchase with a credit card, it's all, or in PayPal. And then, I don't want to move too fast for you guys. So the bundle will be, oh, let me just move back for a second. So when you complete your purchase, you'll receive an email confirmation to log into your courses. And you'll be able to get started on those this week if you're inspired to. And I will let everyone know when we're going to do the Q&A session. I'll check in with everyone to make sure people can make it, and I'll add the Q&A session as a video bonus to College Essay Playbook so that you can reference it later on. So I am so excited for those of you who have been here and who have registered, and I want to be open for questions and comments and insights. What did you get from here? What type of specific questions do you have? I really hope this webinar has been valuable for you. So you can type in the chat box and I'll see if I can answer your questions. Manage participants chat box. Okay. And if you, also I'll mention that you get lifetime access for this. So you'll be able to, if you have multiple students who will be applying to college, this would be great for them. So good question. So when should you start working on your essays? It depends on, I usually say about junior year, middle of junior year. So around now-ish, if you're applying for admission in October or November. So that's when you're gonna start to draft it, when to come up with ideas. I recommend starting now, or at least over the summer, to look at your supplemental essays and just to get a feel for what type of questions are being asked. A lot of schools have different essay prompts. So what ends up happening with a lot of applicants is that they think they have all this time. Where can you find questions? Okay, they think they have all this time, and then the school year starts and they get bombarded with all of their AP classes and work. So getting stuff done starting now and over the summer is going to alleviate a lot of that stress and give you more time to prepare. At least learning, if you're signing up for College Essay Playbook, like at least learning how to do it now is going to be really beneficial. So where can you find questions to prepare? So the common application questions are posted on thecommonapp.org. They've been the same for the past couple of years. They also have an essay of your choice topic. So pretty much they allow you to have complete freedom with it. The questions, they used to change them a lot. So they used to change them a lot because they did surveys every year to like see what was working and what's not. They've come up with a really good all-encompassing set. So if you go to commonapp.org or look up the Common App essays, I also have them in the digital course to show them. So the other question from Kathy, okay, missed the first 30 minutes. Yeah, I'm gonna send you, if all went as planned, the name of the website, collegeessayplaybook.com. Or I'll type in here for commonapp.org, and then the other one was College Essay Playbook. I'll go back to that. So talking about the beginning slides, I'm trying to send this. Okay. collegeessayplaybook.com. I will be, this is recorded, so what I'm going to do whenever I get the recording, which should be tonight, I'm going to send out an email that gives you access to this so you can review it on any time that will be useful to you. So College Essay Playbook or the Common App, I think it's .org, commonapp.org. I don't have my, okay. So what other questions do you have? I'm so glad you guys got to be here today. It's really, really fun. So other questions? Okay, I'll move this back. Any questions you can think of? And if not, for those of you who aren't already in our Facebook group, College Success Strategies, I recommend not only just showing up, but like share stuff. How many essays should you have ready for submitting? It depends on which schools they're applying to. So most schools require a common application essay. They require, so that's a 650-word essay. It could be a topic of their choice. They have, I think, 6 other topics to choose from. And so that's your personal statement. Then in addition to that, schools, especially the competitive schools, will have a series of supplemental essays. So they are in addition to the common application. And what happens is that for some schools, they'll have 4 supplemental essays. They'll be shorter than the Common App. Usually they can range anywhere from like 100 to 500 words. A lot of them average around 250 to 300. So there's a bunch of different essays. They could end up having 12 essays to write if they're applying to highly competitive schools. That's why it's important to plan ahead so that you know that, and so you can see where you can overlap, where topics are similar for different schools, so that you can overlap the essays and not have to write 12, right? So I hope that answers your question. It depends on where they're applying. But again, plan ahead so that you can be in the right place when those start rolling in. So what will happen to the SAT and ACT, I think they're moving back their test dates. I was just reading about this. I want to give you the right information, so I don't want to say like this is exactly what they're doing, but they're going to make adjustments. They're going to change the date, and I don't know what they're going to do in the fall, but they'll definitely have fall SAT and ACT ones if we're all up and running by then. They maybe have them over the summer. They're going to make adjustments. I think the SAT or ACT, if you were to Google that, they have something on what they're experiencing with and what their plan is. I know the Common App talked about that too. Yeah. So College Board, right. So each of the individual, like the College Board will have some information. I know that a lot of the companies and everything that's going on with college admissions, I mean, give it a few weeks, because what I think is happening is that everyone's panicking because we're like, we don't know what to do with admissions. They're going to make it work. They're going to take all of this into consideration. It was just something that no one could foresee coming, right? So it will work out okay. They're going to know it's not, this whole the experience of what's going on in our country right now is not going to be held against them. But I will say this, be strategic about it, right? So like use this time and opportunity to, I recommend, I think I posted it in my group on college success strategies, like encourage them to do things that they have control over, encourage them to like learn a new language or something that shows that they're committing their time to something even when they're quarantined at home. So yeah, the AP test, I think the plan for AP tests, I think I posted in the group, is that they're going to move the essays to the AP exams to an online format, and also only keep they're only going to test on things that students should have learned by March. So they're making accommodations. So they're actually not making them come in or anything, and they're not taking away the credit, because they surveyed, I don't know if you guys got a survey, they surveyed like thousands of applicants of high school juniors who took who were in AP tests or had AP classes. They surveyed the ones who were in AP classes, and they asked them, like, what do you want us to do? And they're like, well, we worked on our AP exam. They want the credit for it, so they're making accommodations too, which I think is great. So I think they're like shorter exams, and it's going to be virtual and online. So I don't know how much weight, I really don't know how much weight the admissions teams are going to look at those AP exams that like didn't really take place. But if everyone's in the same boat, then everything's going to be accommodated, because everyone's in the same boat. It's not like when I was talked about earlier with with Hurricane Sandy, it's like that was specific to our region. This is affecting, the whole world. So any other questions? You can always email me, info@thecollegeessaykaptain.com. And for those of you who want more support, so if you're like, okay, I love the idea of a course and all of that, but I want like more personalized guidance, if you decide that's for you, you can go to my website, thecollegeessaykaptain.com, and there will be a link to click to sign up for a discovery call, and we can talk with you and your family if that would make sense for you to do. And we can uncover, what's been going on for you and what you want to have instead, so you can have a really positive experience. Okay, there's no more questions. I thank you all for joining me today. It was wonderful to host you, and I hope you got a lot of value out of this. And I will send you an email with the information on how to catch the replay for those of you who missed it. And we will be in touch. Join my Facebook group, and we'll keep, thank you. And I'll be over there for the rest of forever in our Facebook group to answer any questions that you have. Thank you for joining me. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and we'll talk soon.